Hey, everybody, how are you? Been a while since I did anything from my home. But with the way things are going, it's a lot of work to set the studio up to just jump in for a few minutes and go live from there. But a couple of things I wanted to talk about. So, it's getting to a point where people are like losing their minds, right? You got people that want to organize events because they believe it's time to open up the economy again, and I guess by doing that they send a message that it's safe. But I don't agree with that, simply because um, if you watch a lot of the scientists from around the country, they still don't have a consensus on the total makeup of this thing, how they're going to be able to treat it, and if it will come back a second, third, or fourth time. They have no idea. Now, I noticed Sweden has decided that they're going to flip the coin. So Sweden is telling people, if you want to wear a mask, if you want to stay home, that's up to you. Social distancing, it's up to you. They're not mandating anything. They're not even really suggesting anything. They are wide open, okay? I was watching some news out of Switzerland earlier where they're in their outside cafes, they're in the stores, restaurants, sitting side by side. And then they had some commentary from scientists in Norway, Germany, America, and somewhere else, talking about Sweden and saying, does Sweden have it right? And the scientists are all saying one thing. The consensus on that is that Sweden doesn't know what's going to happen with this until months, if not years later. Because what they're saying is, Sweden's idea is that by locking people up like this, you're actually making things worse. Sweden feels that if you stay open, you let the virus run its course. Yeah, it's going to kill some people. They already said that. And then it's going to stop. And they don't believe they will have a second wave because they believe it will run itself down. I am no scientist. I don't know. It sounds a little ridiculous to me. But in any case, that's what they're doing. A couple of interviews from Americans who are living and working in Sweden, and they're concerned, they're upset. They can only do so much because there is no government support, so they have to go to work. They have to risk it. I don't know. I don't know what you think about that, but Sweden has always been a country that has a totally different mindset, whether it be about sexuality, drug addiction. They've always went to the other end of the spectrum, and for the most part, they've been very lucky over the years. I think this is a huge mistake for them. I don't think it's the right thing to do, but you know what? I don't know that we're doing the right thing either. What I do believe is that we are being lied to. Every news conference that we watch, the media is pushing this thing on both sides. But also, I think by the president saying he wants to open up the economy, he's very concerned about the economy crashing even worse than it is, and that he feels the longer we stay closed, the harder it's going to be to come back. He may be right. I don't know. But I don't know that opening up is the right thing to do. He's got a pocket of, I don't know, half a dozen or so states that have minimal exposure right now, and they are beginning to open up. I think Florida and California made big mistakes by opening their beaches wide open at one time. I think they should have gradually did that. I don't know how that's going to work out, because if Florida and California, big tourist attractions, open up their beaches, from what I understand, and I went online and looked, a lot of their hotels are booking up, loaded. 2 weeks ago, you could stay in, you could go to Florida, fly there, back, stay in a 5-star hotel for like $200 for a week, $300. Now the prices have all gone pretty much back to normal. I think we're frustrated, we're bored, and we want to move on. I just think that the saddest part of all this is all the lying that we're being told from the government, from Washington right down to our community. There are things going on in our own city, in our own county, that news media, myself, we know about, but yet nothing's being reported. Gets to a point where if you report it, then because nobody else is doing it, it must be fake news, it must be a lie, you know. But the numbers that we're seeing are not the right numbers. How can you have 3 people die in Fall River, work in Fall River? The assumption by many is that they contracted it at their place of employment. But because they don't live in Massachusetts, they live in Rhode Island, Fall River doesn't count their exposure and their death as Fall River numbers. I understand that what has happened is Rhode Island has actually counted those numbers. And then it's crazy because you have Rhode Island counting the numbers, then you have Department of Health, the CDC, counting the numbers. But no one's talking about Fall River, where these people operate a mid-sized business that is open to the public. How many hundreds of people walk through those doors, in and out, and could have been exposed to this virus? But because the public has not been told the whole story, and it just finally came out, part of the story came out, where actually the business was mentioned, people are now panicking, asking questions. I got loads of phone calls, a lot of people asking me, wow, can you believe that this went on 2 weeks ago, or maybe longer? They were exposed to this, diagnosed with it, and public health department, the hospital knew about it, but the city was never told the public, hey, if any of you people have frequented this business, you might want to call your doctor. You might want to watch out for these symptoms. Till this minute, while I speak now, that has still not been done. I think it's wrong. I think that, no, we don't have proof that they got it in Fall River, but we do have proof that they own a business in the city, they operated the business in the city, people frequented that business 7 days a week in this city, and there is a likelihood that someone came in contact with them. And this has nothing to do with the families. They didn't know they were sick. Like everybody knows that you can have this and have no fever, no cough, until it gradually gets worse. So people can be exposed without knowing. So they're going to work every day not knowing, they feel fine, but yet they are possibly infected and passing it on. That is happening every day in these businesses. You know, it's weird that they say you can have a package store open, but you can't have a barbershop. Now, why not say you can have a barbershop open by appointment only, and only one person can enter the barbershop at a time? A lot of people can get haircuts. I wouldn't look this bad. So would a lot of other people. There's other businesses. You have recreational marijuana that you can't go to because of long lines, they say, the exposure of people, but you have medical marijuana open. Makes no sense. All you do is you mark it off with tape every 9 feet, 10 feet, put as many feet as you want between people, make them stay in their car. 8 people can stand in the parking lot, 6 to 10 feet apart. The rest have to wait in their vehicle, and as the line moves down, more people come out. Give them appointments, give them tickets. I mean, there's ways of doing it. We are losing right now between $100,000 and $120,000 every month in the city of Fall River from recreational marijuana losses, because and these are numbers that I know are there. Recreational marijuana, that percentage that we get, which is the 3%, and then the match from the state, has been bringing us in roughly 100,000 or more. Now we have 2 recreational opened up, so we don't know how many more dollars that second one would have brought in, or if it would have averaged. What we do know is we're getting 0 from recreational marijuana. What do you hear the administration talk about, and what have you heard them talk about for a long time? Every time there's an issue about funding, or how we're going to plug this, or how we're going to do that, oh, marijuana money, marijuana money. Well, what now? You've already plugged your budget up with potential projections of marijuana monies that we're not getting. And guess what? The government is not going to subsidize what you would have got for medical marijuana, for recreational marijuana. So that's a loss. $100,000 a month, easy. There is nothing else going on. There is no money coming into the city, but tons of money going out. How are you going to deal with this when this is over? How are you going to deal with it? We heard the administration talk about a 4-point-something shortfall in the budget a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. I believe it was in the second quarter, the second quarter meeting they had. And now we just had the third quarter, which didn't give us very much for numbers. So if you had that, and then you gave $1.2 million to the school department that was owed to them, and a couple of other transfers, you had $8 million in the stabilization fund. So if you take the 4.5 million shortfall, you add the 1.2 from the school, right? So you got 4.7, 5.7, 5.9. So you got 5.9 million you got to deduct from the 8 million. Doesn't leave you a lot of money, does it? And that's only what we know about. And I don't think, I don't think that Mayor Coogan is at fault at all. I don't think he is. I think he's being told everything's cool, and because he's new, he's taking their word. I think we have seen over and over the course of a number of years, budget numbers move all over the place, crazy projections, and making projections low so that at the end of the year you have extra money, so now you can build your surplus up. instead of making more accurate projections, not having all this money left over at the end of the year, but not taxing the people. Right? So every projection is, when they project how much they're going to need, that's how they set their taxes and fees. So if you project the right number, your taxes and fees will be lower. And yes, at the end of the year, you won't have $2 or $3 million left like you've been having every year, you know. But it won't be coming out of the people's pockets either. So when you hear about all this surplus money, that's just money that was under-projected. They knew they were getting more money, and they did it on purpose so that they could have all this extra money at the end of the year. Again, that has nothing to do with this administration, so don't get off on the tandem and stop blaming them. It's got nothing to do with the Coogan administration. This was done prior. But you still have the same financial person in place. You still have many of the same people in place, and I think we have a serious problem. I've talked to prior mayors. I've talked to prior representatives. No one will talk on the record because that's how politicians are. But they're all very concerned, you know. And you know what, people? I'll make a projection that you're going to see taxes at the maximum, and you're going to see fees increase, crazy fees. You're going to see the cost of birth certificates, marriage licenses, copies of records, copies of paperwork, building permits, plumbing, all kind of permits. Anything that you have to get a permit for and pay a fee, you're going to see them maybe double, triple, at the very least a significant increase, because they're going to have to come up with money, a lot of money. And there's no way to get it but from the people. Now, you know, you're going to hear it said that, oh, well, the state and the federal government is going to give the cities all money because of this, and that's what's going to bail us out. The federal government is not going to give you a dollar for dollar. They're going to give you a percentage of what you think, and you tell them you lost. Oh, we lost $10 million through this. You think they're going to give you $10 million, you must be cuckoo, okay? You're going to get pennies on a dollar, and that's what you're going to get. So you're not going to get anywhere near what you need to fill these shortfalls. Don't be surprised if you don't start hearing that tune. Oh, if we don't increase fees and taxes, you know, public safety cuts are going to be at risk. When we know 100% that you never ever have to let go of fire and police. You can cut staff, you can cut assistants, you can cut all the way from the top. You start at the top. You get rid of duplicated services. You do like they did many years ago, when instead of having a department head in charge of 3 departments that are pretty much the same type of departments, you consolidate, you have all 3 departments, and you have 1 person in charge. So you save yourself $250,000 plus benefit costs. Okay, you put 1 director in front of 3 or 4, in charge of 3 or 4 different departments. They done it before, and they survived. All of a sudden, we started getting all this money in. Then, okay, well, this department's got a director. This one's got a director and an assistant director. This department's got, well, what do we got? We got chief of staff. We got CEO, COO, CFO, assistants. I mean, when that's all said and done, that's $1 million. Like this, $1 million. So when it comes time, people, for them talking about these kind of cuts, that's where I want to see you open your mouth and take a stand and say, okay, every department cut from the top. Okay, lay them off. They can collect maximum. Most of them work their entire life on the back of the city. They ain't never worked out in the general public, you know. They're government babies. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I was going to do a show, but like I said, no reason to tie up my buddy to set the equipment all up and run a show in. Just as easy, you can do it this way. It's not as good, it's not as fancy, but the content remains the same. So we're going to be having someone coming on, a city official coming on. He was scheduled this afternoon, but he got mandatory overtime at his real job. So we're going to reschedule maybe tomorrow, or maybe I'll bring him in and tape it, and then we'll play it. And that's going to be very interesting. That's going to talk about police, fire. It's going to talk about a lot of things, and it's going to let you know the truth, what's really happening, not what you're being told. So that's going to be a very good interview. Also, I have a couple other things coming up. The Gene and Will Flanagan show will probably not air this week, but probably the week after. And by then, this thing will evolve even more. So we'll definitely have an interesting show then. The other thing we want to tell you that is, if anybody wants to come down and take a shot at having your own podcast, my partner and I are going to offer anybody an opportunity to come in and have a free 1 hour podcast, half-hour podcast, and we will set it up, run the equipment for you. You can go live and try your hand at it. So if you got something to say and you want to have a show, reach out to us. We'll set up an appointment. You can come down. If you like it, when you're done with it, then we can talk to you about the big COVID-19 special we're running. And as far as anything else goes, our campaign for marketing and advertising is now ready. All our new software is in place. We can do it by video, by Zoom, any way you want. We have 3 new clients, and we're seeking more clients. Come in right now, get yourself a big special right off the top. All right, so listen, thank you, everybody. Stay safe. Do what you want to do. If you believe that being out in the public is safe for you to do, then God bless you. I hope it works out for you. For me, I'm not ready for that yet. I have a weakened immune system. I live on medication, so that would be suicide. But I believe people have a right to make their own decisions, and you do what you got to do. And I say a prayer for you all. Last but not least, and this is going to be a big one. School will cancel for the rest of the year in the state of Massachusetts. Now, there's questions there. I got a call into the school department trying to get the superintendent. There's going to be questions there. Are we going to have the MCAS test? Are we going to have the test that the kids take every year so they can get their score and pass? These kids going to have to repeat a year because it's something that had nothing to do with their fault. Are they going to continue homeschooling like they are right now, getting lesson plans and completing them? Are they going to do that for the balance of the year, or are they now going to pull the plug because the governor said this? Will there be graduating? It's a big one. My grandkids are really concerned about that. They've never been held back. They're all really good students, and they want to move on to the next class. So these are questions I'll be asking the superintendent, and as soon as I know, you'll know. Okay, but that's going to cause a serious problem, because if people start going back to work in the next, say, 2 or 3 weeks, gradually let people go back to work. Now we have a babysitting problem. Now we have a daycare problem. Where are people going to put their children when ordinarily they'd be in school? So, sorry folks, it's not going to be pretty, and the governor made the announcement today, so if I was you, start looking into it, see what you're going to have to do. to get through this added bullshit. Okay? All right. Fall River Daily News update. And for the rest of the day, please stay safe. Take care of each other. Check in on some elderly people. Check in on your neighbors. If you go in a store, go to the store for 2 or 3 people instead of just yourself. Okay? Bye. God bless.